Welcome to Beyond the Press Release, a production of Gorecom, in which we speak to small cap executives right after they put out important news. With us today for the first time, not from the company, but him personally, John Barker. He's Vice President of Business Development at Loncor Resources. Trades on the TSX. That's the big board under LN for our friends in the US. Also OTCQX under LONCF. And you actually see those symbols right above John's head there on the screen. For those of you new to the story, you're going to love this, especially for resource investors and gold investors. So Loncor, here's the party line. Canadian gold exploration company focused on two projects in the DRC that have historic gold production and massive upside. All right, that's what you expect the company to say. How do we back that up? First of all, hear this. Barrick joint venture. They got a potential for a tier one discovery. Barrick actually manages and solely funds all exploration of the program, including delivery of a pre-feasibility study on any gold discovery that meets their criteria. Outside of that, outside the Barrick JV, Loncor controls 85%, I'm rounding up there, of 3.7 million high-grade ounces within the Imbu project area. So that's under their control. So they get this double whammy going, and they're naturally looking to grow the ounces there. But they also have Newmont Gold Corp owns 6% of Loncor's outstanding shares. Resolute Mining owns 26% and has a 30% right of first refusal on any financing. So that tells you that there's a lot of confidence in the company from the industry. And finally, on the inside, Arnold Kondrat, founder, CEO, owns 27%. That's putting his money where his mouth is. And there's a huge inside ownership of about 59%. So there is great confidence. Everyone's putting their money where their mouth is. John, welcome to the show.
Yeah, it's a pleasure, and thanks for the great welcome.
Well, look, it's a great welcome because it's an easy story to tell. I mean, when I talk about that speaks for itself, John. What you can help us do here is, from a layman's example first, let's talk about why. What are the two assets that have got outsiders like Barrick, Newmont, and Resolute interested, and also the inside group at such a heavy ownership? What's their reasons?
Look, it's really changed a little bit in the last 14 months or so. The real focus of the company now is on Adumbi, which is in the Imbo area that you mentioned. We have that 85% control, and that project is going from strength to strength. And I'm calling it now a company maker. No doubt, with the grades it's sitting at over 2.3 grams a ton. These are very similar grades to what Kibali has been churning out cash with for the last few years at the mine 220 k's away. So our focus is really on Adumbi. And when I say focus, we're busy drilling, looking to crank up a resource there beyond what we have already, down to only 600 meters. And then soon after that, mid-year of this year, we're going to hopefully come out with a scoping study, which I believe will show exceptional returns given the grade.
Is there drilling going on there right now, or what's its current status between now and when that scoping study comes out?
Yeah, look, we're busy drilling at Adumbi. We have around a 12-hole program, and we're 2/3 of the way through. So there is news filtering out as it comes back, and everything, touch wood, has been coming back as we expected it as far as widths and grades. I mean, Adumbi itself is 130 meter stacked banded ironstone deposit, almost vertical. And then at depth, we'll be focusing on much higher grade, lower zones, thinner zones. But again, this is what Kibali's been doing, the Barrick's been doing at Kibali. So everything has come back as we expected it. The drilling itself, the first few holes, we're really looking at infill drilling within the potential pit structure. We believe from the work that we've done, we should be looking at the 400,000 or 500,000 ounces. Of course, that's speculation, but we have a good idea what's above and what's below from the drilling. So we're looking at a cranking up of the open pit resources. And then at depth, we've been drilling down, as I say, to around 600 meters. And we believe, again, if we're going to speculate, probably 1 million ounces of resources in that sort of region. So we were then talking with a project down to 600 meters, close to 4 million ounces, or under 4 million ounces, and at those sort of grades. And from my perspective, I would always prefer to have, maybe slightly less on the ounces. Well, I'd like to have more, but less on the ounces and a much higher grade. And that's what we're certainly having at a
And
Dumby.
you're really happy with the grade right now. Are those grades,
Yeah.
John, par for the course of that area, or are they above expectations?
Look, there's not a lot of work in our area on Gayu, 3,500 kilometers squared. There's some historic work from the Belgians. There's various work. There's not a lot of drilling has gone on there. From the drilling that's going on, yeah, we certainly consistent. From what we've seen from the drilling at Kibali, which is the same age of deposit, looks virtually the same. And again, their grades are very, you can go onto Barrick's website and you'll see that their thicknesses and grades are really very similar to what we're finding. So we're very happy about what we're finding here.
And the last time you put out drill results, looks like January 5th, where you announced Loncor continues to intersect significant gold mineralization at Dumby flagship deposit. What's the cadence of expecting more drill results? Estimated time? Is it you're going to put these out every 6 weeks, 8 weeks? What do you think is going to be the interval?
Yeah, I think these things are, you have to be a little flexible given where we're operating, and we have to get it over to Tanzania, and there's more paperwork now with COVID. But yeah, we would be expecting results on a couple of holes in the next few days, next week or so, sorry, not the next few days, the next few weeks or so. Similarly, Barrick are drilling on the JV, and we'd expect to get results from them too. We can touch on that in a moment. So we would expect a flow of results. But I think for us, the real key here, and the thing that's changed in the story. Remember, the story's been around for 12 years or so, this group of assets. So it's been around, but there wasn't much to say. But now we have very, very clear stepping stones to a potential release of significant value for our shareholders. We've got a market cap around $50 million US. And in the next 3 months, we finish the drilling, we come out with a resource upgrade. So you'll see significant resource upgrade. Getting close to tier 1 classification with great grades. And that will then be put into a scoping study. And that scoping study, we'd hope by mid-year we'll have information on that. So that's very clear stepping stones. And that scoping study, as I said earlier, given we've got 2.3 grams a ton rather than 1 gram a ton of many of the deposits in West Africa, the sort of margins we'd hope to returning are really, really significant. So, I mean, if you would assume a couple of 2 million ounces for our project and $1,000 an ounce, which is what Kibali's got, I mean, you're getting big figures and the very, very basic calculations, and that's what's going to release the value in the next 3 to 6 months for the shareholders. And that's why I think we've just in the process of finalizing a private placement, and that's why we're getting a whole new raft of investors in, because it's a simple story, a Dumby with a bit of spice on the joint venture and our own exploration. Sure. And a very simple step 1, step 2 in the next 6 months to really indicate what the potential value release is in our story.
That private placement, you guys have closed your first tranche of about $4 million. I'm assuming that's all meant for a Dumby, or most of it anyways?
Yeah, 4 million Canadian, and that will get us through the scoping study. So we're not likely to be raising money again until we have an indication of what the value is of our project in the ground. So hopefully by then, obviously, our share price will have corrected significantly on the upside.
Let's talk about your Barrick JV, because it's amazing how a Dumby is such a great flagship deposit that leads first. Whereas most of the time, anybody's got a joint venture with Barrick, they'd be yelling that from the rooftop. So if you just had a Dumby, that would be great. But let's talk about the Barrick joint venture. What is, for people who are watching this for the first time and learning about, what should they know about the potential for a tier 1 discovery there?
Yeah, so this was signed off over 4 years ago by Randgold, and so Mark Bristow is now the CEO of Barrick. Saw the potential of the ground, saw it as a very, very similar geological terrain to Kibali. Kibali was starting to crank up its production. Subsequent to that, I mean, Kibali has really gone from strength to strength. It seems like every quarter they're at the top end of production estimates. So that proves what can be achieved in the area. So needless to say, Barrick, under the guidance of Bristow, is now looking for Kibali too. And he's saying that in his quarterlies. And they've looked around the vicinity of their operations, but now more and more they're looking outside. Well, we're the only really ground that they've got outside of the Kibali area. So the joint venture with us is really what they're concentrating on currently outside of the Kibali area. That joint venture you mentioned earlier on, they have the right to get up to 65% if they come with a positive pre-feasibility. And at that point, we'll then go to 35%, and we have no capital commitment and until that point. Then after that, we have to fund it. Yeah, we have to fund it. So where are they now? They spent 3.5-4 years looking over the ground in great detail, looking obviously at the typical geological assessment. But a key area was, for example, the age of the banded ironstones, which is the key rock structure in that area. And the age is exactly the same as Kibali. And that obviously encouraged Barrick to get 2 drill rigs on. So almost 6 months ago, they pulled 2 drill rigs on and have been drilling since then. And we've had news release. We get steady news flow. But it's the 2 areas that they're on currently. There's 2 areas that are, I mean, they're searching for big projects, plus 5 million ounce, tier 1, they call it, projects. One project they're looking at currently has a structure of over 7 kilometers. Another one has a structure over 5 kilometers. I say drill holes have either been drilled or are drilling. Trenching has been done, which is very encouraging. And we're expecting results from the drilling again in the next few weeks, coming in from Tanzania. So there will be a flow. But as I said, that to me is really the spice on top of the very clear Dumby story.
John. That's the amazing part. Barrick is more of the spice, the oregano on top of the great Greek Mediterranean dinner we're having at Loncor. I mean, how many people can say that, right? Where most people would be hanging their hat on that. So 2021, John, looks like it should be a transformational year. Would that be fair to say, where we really learn a lot about both sides of the business?
Yeah, if the geology performs as we believe it should do, the gold price obviously is a factor as well, and the results, the drill results continue in the vein we've had, then we are going to have a very, very interesting next 6 months. And then beyond that, we can really start looking at other areas. I mean, we haven't even spoke. We've got 1.1 million ounces of resource at a place called Macapella, a different animal to a Dumby, narrow, high grade, but the grades, you're getting 64 grams per ton over 4 or 5 meters true width, a quartz visible gold. We just don't know, though, what's happening there. It's 3 kilometers in length. We just have no idea of the structure, et cetera. So that's something to do once a Dumby's moved to the next stage. And then, as I said, down structure from a Dumby, we have Imbo East. And hopefully we'll have some results coming out of that early stage. But from creating a mining district, only 8 Ks from Madumbi, it would be how wonderful that would be. But very, very encouraging early stage exploration work. And again, second half of the year, perhaps some drill holes in there. So we have a number of things, but I really just want investors to focus on Madumbi, because when we come with the scoping study, I say people can just do the figures themselves on the margin and the ounces. And the neat thing is too, because of the grade, we shouldn't need the world's biggest plant, because you're getting probably half the tonnage of the many other 1 gram a ton West Africans, because we got 2.4, 2.3 grams a ton. So the plant shouldn't be the largest. And it all augurs well for potential early stage economics in the
and we'll explain
study.
that for a little bit of people at home, that if you're getting a very low grade of gold per ton, then you have to put obviously a lot more rock through a much bigger system just to make your make your money, run your business.
Yeah.
But when you have significantly higher grades, you don't need to put a ton of rock into a machine at the end of the day. And I know I'm being very
exactly right.
Colloquial, but that's the logic, right? That you don't have to go invest in the biggest mine at the end, or the biggest facilities at the end of the day once you're ready to go on a Dumby.
Exactly right. The mill you're going to use for crushing, or the various crushing stages, and then into the metallurgical plant, you hopefully you just don't need the scale. And of course the returns, you're paying it back in the first half gram, or whatever the economic cutoff is for your project. So everything above that is profit. Now, you've got 1 gram a ton, you're getting half a gram profit, but we're getting 1.5 to 2 grams a ton profit. So that a couple of things, not just the profit and the return and the IRR and all those things should hopefully look very, very lucrative. But beyond that, the reality is we're going to be bottom quartile cost curve because of the grade, the quality of the what we're taking out. Yeah, strip ratios, the amount of waste rock, etc., will have influences, but we're certainly going to be in a very good part of the cost curve, which is always good to be.
Well, I'm glad you bring that up because I brought up gold prices, right? We're sitting about 1825, right? And there are a lot of calls there. Gold's going to 3,000, gold's going to 5,000. Okay, that would be great. I'm not sure. We'll talk about that some other time. But talk to us about how what's the sensitivity on a Dumby and your Barrick joint venture to the price of gold. In other words, right now at 1825, so anywhere between 18 and 1950, where it keeps fluctuating. Are you really profitable, you think, or do you need more help? I want investors at home to have a good understanding of your sensitivity to the price of gold.
Look, 2019, which is the last annual figures for Gabali, as I said, it's Barrick's, one of their flagship operations. Similar grades in the pit to what we're finding at a Dumby. So let's look at it as a proxy. They're all-in costs, and this is with an element of underground as well, which would normally be more expensive per ounce. So including an element of underground, they're all-in costs for their operation there. It was sub $700 an ounce. So there you see the margins.
That's unbelievable.
Yeah, so and we're you could argue we're going to be leaner and meaner as a junior operator, but time will tell. It's early stage. We have resources, but so far it's really, really encouraging. Hence, the level of interest is cranking up on us. And I think just to flip it, I suppose, into valuations. What do you pay for it? This is a $1,000 an ounce long dated option we're talking about in essence, and we're currently trading around $15 an ounce. That's our enterprise value, or basically our market capitalization divided by our resources, around $15 an ounce. The majority of our peer groups through that area, virtually all of them with grades significantly lower, so projects with a less robust than us, they're trading 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 times multiples of that enterprise value to what we are. So that's why, again, I think when we get that resource upgrade in the next 3 months, the scoping study in 6 months, and anything that Barrick wants to come out with, we're hoping to see really a re-rating in our stock should everything else behave.
Let me ask you a question, and well, maybe I was going to end it there, but I wanted to ask you something since we're talking about it. A Dumby right now is at 3.7 million, give or take, right? Is there a number you need it to be at the end of the day?
I just want to mention that the 3.7 is a Dumby plus Macapella, which is 1.1.
Right, Imbo. Sorry,
yeah,
right.
Yeah, that's right. So a Dumby by itself is sitting smaller. It's sitting more like 2.5, but we'd hope to add around 400,000 ounces in the drilling in the pit. That takes it to 2.9 million ounces in the pit with a.
And is that big enough? Like, do you need to get? Is that big enough, John, or do you need to get to a certain size before you could think about, starting to take it out of the ground?
It comes back to, again, there's a real concept out there: ounces, ounces, ounces. I would much prefer to look at cash flow. And whilst it's not the biggest open pit potential resource there, I would argue that the returns you're going to get on it are so much wider, so much more significant, that this will be a particularly robust looking project when the scoping study comes out. That's my feeling from everything I've seen, the metallurgy, the strip ratios, the cost per ton of other projects, plugging it all in. And as I say, everything goes to plan on the geology and the drilling and the resources, etc. It is just so much more robust that the big figure, which investors want to know about, which is what it's worth, will be significantly higher than much bigger projects out there.
Got it. All right. Yeah, because I'm doing some back of the napkin math here, which is if it's 2.5 million ounces now, you're hoping to add another 400. Let's just, for math's sake, round it up to 3 million. If you're making 3 million ounces, if you're making a profit of $1,000 per ounce on that, that's $3 billion. Is that bad back of the napkin math right there?
Look, I would only.
And I'm not, by the way, yeah, I know I can't put your number,
so yeah, this again, I just have to. These are inferred resources, so we have to be clear where we are. We're right at the beginning of it, but it is looking very robust. What I would suggest is if you're looking at to carry on that analysis, rather than using resources, let's look at reserves. In the typical sort of conversion, resource and reserves would be 65%. So it takes you down to about 2 million ounces. And again, complete speculation, but 2 million ounces, and then
Yeah,
do
we
figures on
just for the
2
sake of
million.
helping people do
And then,
math, they can decide on their own.
indeed. Again, if you look at 2 million and do the maths, then you obviously you're getting towards the figures that you were talking about. We still have capex. It could be a $350 million capex, infrastructure in the area, all of these things. But you can see why it's so interesting. I think the other element, let's not forget that we'd hope with the drilling that we take the open pit up to around 3 million and then another million underground. That's 4 million, but it's just 600 meters. Kibali's already mining close to a kilometer. You add another 400 meters of drilling, which we may or may not do, but you're getting over the tier 1 threshold then. So there's a lot of interesting elements to it. Yeah.
Open-ended for sure. It doesn't stop here, but this is a good first phase, I guess, right?
Yeah, indeed. Yeah.
All right. John, last comments to you. I mean, this has been a great conversation talking about Dumby, talking about the Imbo project area, your JV with Barrick, what's going to be coming, in the next 6 months. I think it's been a fantastic conversation. Any last takeaways you want to make sure investors at home are considering?
Yeah, well, I hope I have imprinted how a high-grade project should be, so attractive when we come with the scoping study. The other thing, there's no doubt that the Democratic Republic of the Congo is not a place that a lot of people are aware of or invested in, but there's really a couple of things that are going particularly right. Beyond the Kibali gold mine, you've also got Rob Freeland with his joint venture, the Chinese group on the Kamoa-Kakula copper mine. That again, ahead of schedule. He's talking about the second best copper project in the world. So the region itself, the DRC, there's quite a number of positive mining stories coming out of that area. So we're really happy about what it's offered. We have a team that's very, very experienced in that area, and hopefully the combination of releasing value in the asset, Adambi, in the country, the DRC, and other things that may come along, like the JV with Barrick, etc. That should all be to the benefit of shareholders.
John, I got to tell you, you've painted a great picture of the assets. You've painted a great picture of what the next 3, 6, 12 months could potentially look like and what we're looking for. And if anybody who's watching this, who's half a serious investor in the junior mining, junior resources space, I don't know how they haven't watched or listened to this and not get excited about it. So thanks so much for joining us today. This has been really powerful.
All right. Thanks, George. Good speaking to you.
For everybody at home, you've been watching, or if you've been listening by podcast on Spotify, Google, Apple, your favorite podcast platform, to John Barker. He's Vice President of Business Development at the Loncor Resources, which trades on the big board TSX under the stock symbol LN. For our friends in the United States, LONCF, and that's on the OTC QX. And on Frankfurt, also LO51. So we got everybody covered. Okay, United States and Europe. Do your due diligence. Get to the Loncor profile in Agoracom. It's got a great overview of all of this because you're not going to commit all this to memory. It's all nicely laid out there. And then, of course, you'll link right over the Loncor site as well, so you can do additional due diligence. We can't, that's all we can do is bring all this information to you. Do due diligence, talk to your financial advisor, do all things, but make sure you do the due diligence because 12 months from now, I don't want any of you to tell me I didn't tell you so. Have a great day. See you next time.